call?
Yeah, you're fine. You're completely fine.
Go through all the questions and then go through all the questions again. I might say it differently the second time.
That's okay, I'll just let her.
That's completely fine.
That's fine.
Alright, ready to shoot. My name is Omar Syed, and I'm working as a computer consultant for a game company. So my background is in computer science and computer engineering, and I started my career working at Raytheon. Worked there for a year in Boston. Then I went back to do my master's in artificial intelligence, and then I also worked at NASA for 10 years. Then I worked at Raytheon, then I worked at Yahoo for about 3 years, and then worked at Zynga, worked at headchatter.com, and also now working at Boss Fight Entertainment. So at NASA I worked at the Research Analysis Center, and there we basically helped the principal investigators with analyzing the data that they've collected from experiments, as well as helping the researchers collect the data using what's called a data acquisition system. Also, towards the end, I was also part of the webmaster team, helped set up some of the first web servers at NASA, and build internal services that were used within the NASA intranet. Back when I was working at NASA, they invited Bill Nye there one time to just give a science demo, and I took Amir and Amina, who were like very little at the time, and they had a great time, and Amina even went up to Bill Nye and asked him some questions, so that was really interesting.
What'd you ask?
She asked him what he was drinking, and he said coffee. So at Yahoo, basically they were bought up, or they bought up a company that was called Broadcast.com, and they turned that into their multimedia streaming center, and there I was principal architect of the multimedia streaming center, and I helped redesign a lot of the back-end systems so that they wouldn't have crashes when like a particular video got very popular. Also helped Yahoo with getting several patents on the technology that we created in the process of building more robust streaming systems. So mostly I focus on the back-end infrastructure and the scaling, trying to build systems that are able to scale well with increasing user load. Also building systems that are robust and fault tolerant. Behind every game there's a lot of user data being stored on the servers, and a lot of computations that need to happen on the server side to check that the moves that a player is making are legitimate. So I've mostly worked on that part of the game as opposed to working on the front end graphics and stuff like that. So actually it started, I think, back in like 11th grade when I first took my computer class, and it used like really old TRS-80 computers, but we were learning to program in BASIC, and uh, after that class, I kind of knew that working with computers is the thing that I wanted to do. My first computer was a Commodore 64, and back in those days, you didn't have that many like games that were already made, and I just used to try to write my own games for it. I mean, starting with games that were just sort of like similar to like the Space Invaders type of games where things are falling and you have to try to avoid your piece getting hit by it and things like that. So that was a lot of good experience in teaching me to program. And I also used to write some of my games in assembly language on that Commodore 64 computer without ever having taken any like formal assembly language programming course or anything like that. So just learned it from reading the manuals. That started, I think, like the senior year of my undergraduate. Um, I took a course in like Introduction to Artificial Intelligence, and I really found it very fascinating. I did have an interest in artificial intelligence before that because I was always wanting to try to write a program that could make a computer play chess on my own personal computers. And but after I, uh, in college, learned more about artificial intelligence, I was finally able to do that. So back in 1997, there was a chess match between Garry Kasparov, who was the world chess champion, and a computer called Deep Blue that was built by IBM. And in that match, Garry Kasparov lost the computer, and for almost like 50 years prior to that, people were trying to build a computer that would eventually be able to beat a human at playing chess. And chess was looked at as the pinnacle of human intelligence. And so when that event happened, people were like, well, now computers have gotten to be more intelligent than humans and things like that. But since I had a background in artificial intelligence, I knew basically that the way computer was playing chess was very different than the way humans play it. So what I decided to do was basically see if it would be possible to make a game that had a lot of different possible moves from any given position, so that as the computer tried to build a search tree, the tree would get so enormous that the computer wouldn't be able to. So I had to find a way to balance that so that it would be harder for the computers without being harder for the human players. So after several years of playtesting and also trying to come up with interesting rules, came up with this game called Arima. And so when we were starting to build Arima, Amir was like 4.5 years old, and I asked him, hey, what should we call this game? And I suggested Rima, which is his name spelled backward, and then he replied back with, how about Arima? And it was just the same thing but with the letter A at the beginning. And so that's how we decided to call the game Arima. And I put out I wrote a paper, published it in the International Computer Games Association Journal, and put out a challenge for $10,000 for anybody that could write a program to defeat the best human arima players, and that challenge stood for about 10 years, and finally in 2015, a researcher from Harvard was able to um, build a program that was able to beat the top human arima players. Started skateboarding back when I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, and it was just something that I did like almost any time that I had free time. And in, I think it was 7th grade, they had a sports day event, and one of the competitions was slalom skateboarding. And since I had a lot of practice with that, I was able to do that really easily, and so I won a trophy in skateboarding on that sports day event. And then also when I was in college, I got kind of interested in hang gliding. Actually, this is when I was doing my master's, and I was still learning, but I tried to push myself maybe a little bit too fast, and there was a time where I got into an accident because the wind that was coming towards me suddenly like stopped, and my hang glider stalled. Fortunately, I was only about maybe 10 or 15 feet above the ground, and when the hang glider did a nosedive and hit the ground, I ended up breaking my left femur bone and had to have major surgery to repair that. But fortunately, that was about the worst experience I had with that. I think I kind of stopped hang gliding after that, but I also got engaged, so I didn't want to put anybody else's lives in jeopardy.
That's about it.
All right,
That's the
great.
interview.
All right, thanks.